Really sold it and this is all sides.
I guess we'll start. Call the meeting to order here. Just one thing, before we get into the main agenda. Received the Albany Business Review Book of Lists, and Fulton County has 3 business and tech parks listed here in the top 20. Johnstown Industrial Park was number 6. It's based upon square footage of building, acreage, number of buildings on site, etc. Number 13 was the Mayfield Commerce Park, and number 19 was the Crossroads Industrial Park. So we have three of our parks on the book of lists.
Nice.
After what I try on wasn't on there, but
Mayfield is Fred Albury's.
yeah,
That's great. Yeah.
okay. Mr. Truckenmiller unfortunately went home sick today, so he won't be joining us today. As always, I'll start out with the IDA's mission. The Fulton County IDA's mission is to drive economic growth and prosperity by preparing shovel-ready sites for development, including commercial enterprise, diverse housing options, workforce development, and tourism. Okay, first order of business are the minutes from the December 9th meeting. I believe those are attached to your agenda packet and emailed out recently. Everybody got a chance to read those?
I'll make a motion.
Mike Fitzgerald make a motion to approve.
A second.
Yep, that's Joe Semyon. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to the budget report. Here. This is for year end, obviously. Looking at the highlighted in yellow. We had insured cash sweep on some of our investment earnings, 1,736.15. The investment earnings on the T-bill actually showing a deduction, and it is based upon the last T-bill that at the time that the last T-bill was invested. Trying to get a more of a clarification from Kevin Corkery on this from our CFO. He has not responded, but once we do have a better clarification as to why that is, I will definitely have the CFO email you the reason behind that. So we did receive our reimbursement from Stanley for mowing at Tryon in the amount of $7,990. Under the expenditure lines, we have the executive director and the CFO's salary. Under the professional services, we had a payment to Weston Company for $500, and that was for payroll services for the year. We had a final payment to Kara's firm for services for the year.
I'm here for.
Yeah. We had a payment of $3,500. That was to CBRE for the market rent study that we asked them to conduct in the Johnstown Industrial Park. And also, just so you know, the city of Johnstown will be paying for 50% of that. So we'll be sending the city of Johnstown an invoice for 50% of that, those dollars to come back. We had a payment to the New York State EDC for membership. A payment for a monthly IDA website, another payment for the website research project. That's final $5,500. Along with that, the CRG will be sending a CRG an invoice for $2,000 because that's what they identified that they would contribute to that initiative. So I'll be sending them an invoice once that project is done. Under the expenditures of Tryon, obviously we made the payment for the mowing services. And then under miscellaneous, we have the application fee for the Power Up grant that we're in the process of submitting for Tryon. And at the bottom, you can see the investments and the T-bills, et cetera.
Scott?
Yep.
Quick question on the total revenues and financial sources. Under the column you were just reading from, it lists 1,703.66, which appears to be the sum from the investment earnings line.
That's correct.
Where does the Win Stanley reimbursement fit into that?
I would assume that that should also be there, Dave.
Okay.
Have them have that on there as well.
Maybe it's just a formula
Yep.
adjustment. And because of that one, I'd maybe encourage you to check all of them
Check
across
them out.
there.
Yep.
Just to make sure they're capturing all the necessary ones.
We'll relay that to the CFO. Other than those edits, are there any other questions? Comments on the budget report? So if none, let's move up to the next motion to approve with those edits.
I make a motion to accept them.
So Simeon, is there a second?
I'll second.
Dan, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. Under the committee reports, we do have some committee reports this month. The nominating committee did report on the 2026 officers. The chairman is Sue, vice chair is Greg, treasurer is Mike, and our secretary this year will be Dan Rounds.
Welcome to the club.
Yep, welcome to the club.
Happy to be here.
You're gonna start taking all the minutes, so you're in.
Where's that AI tool?
Yeah. Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to accept the report?
I'll make the motion.
Leave tomorrow. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Joe Gillis?
The two guys on here. Yeah.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And then the audit committee, the monthly bank reconciliation report, this past month was for Joe Samuel.
Yes, everything was in order and I just signed all the forms saying that they have been reviewed and all in good order.
Excellent.
And pass it down.
Yep, please.
I'll sign it.
Let's keep everything in order. Okay, moving right along. Finance. committee. Oh, sorry. No, we don't. No, nothing for the governance committee. Under the finance committee, the finance committee did meet on January 5th. We called that meeting to discuss the New York State ESD Fast New York Track C Grant Award that was awarded to the IDA in the amount of $8.99 million for the 3 infrastructure improvements to the Tryon Technology Park that we submitted. They were based upon engineering estimates provided, and you can see that those 3 engineers' estimates for the water improvements at $1,083,125, wastewater system improvements at $500,000, and then the soils construction, as I call it, $8.4 million for just over $9 million total. Moving on, just as a refresher, the Fast New York grant will not include any contingencies, so they will not fund any contingencies. So obviously that's a factor that the Finance Committee is looking at. And to date, I have not received an official award letter, but I do believe that it is coming. That award letter will provide me as the executive director with a project manager with ESD. And the first step will be with the project manager is to obviously describe the project, bring them up to speed, and then starting to complete paperwork in regards to MWBE and veterans requirements. In the past, the IDA or the ESD typically would like to achieve 30%, but in discussions with ESD recently, there's several forms that you have to complete. And to describe the project and where you are in the process of the project or what have you. And then the state will come back with what they believe that the percentages should be. So there is some room there to negotiate, so to speak. Also, another thing that the Finance Committee was looking at is whether or not ESD will allow for progress payments. Okay, so that's something that I would also be working with the project manager. Once one is provided to us. This grant requires a 10% equity match of approximately $899,000 from the IDA. And those costs, that we're going to start, accumulating, shortly here, are subject to reimbursement, because the date that the grant reimbursement will allow for is the date that it was announced, which is December 12th of 2025. Okay. Again, the finance committee will be meeting on a regular basis, moving forward, looking at, potential bond or line of credit, because, the total project cost, as you saw, is about $9 million, a little over $9 million. So, working on that, and the finance committee will report, to the board, at their monthly meeting. Anything else, finance committee members, you'd like to, identify?
No,
At this time?
Yeah, I think we just continue to put, I think, a structure together, because there's some unknowns at this point. Scott mentioned if we can get reimbursements, typically on a grant, you have to spend the money, then put in your paperwork and get reimbursed. If we could get any type of progress payments during the beginning, that'd be less that we would have to finance. No, if we have to spend the entire close to $9 million, obviously we don't have that in cash. We'd have to find a bank to partner with to provide either bonding or a line of credit till we can get to the point where we get grant reimbursement. So we're gonna have to, in addition to that $899,000, there might be some financing costs as interest carry, might be some additional monitoring. I think Scott said that the county might have the ability to do reviews of the progress when their certificates are supported for advances for the general contractors. And also we'll have to go out to bid for that existing work. So there's more work to do, and we're gonna start meeting at least once a month. We'll do that probably a week or two prior to this meeting, so we can keep everyone updated as we progress.
Yep. Very good. Exactly. With that being said, as you know, we need to engage engineering firms to provide engineering services. I did solicit 3 firms in order to provide these services, and you can see Bowler Engineering for the soils construction. That firm has also been working with Winstanley Enterprises, and Winstanley has been under contract with Bowler to already do a lot of the design of taking soils from the 50-acre site at Tryon that we're trying to level and bring them over to prep the 115-acre site. So the majority of that design has already been done. What Bowler Engineering will be doing for the IDA is putting together the project bid specifications, providing bidding services, as well as construction administration services. Okay. Those are the 3 components that Bowler will be providing to us, and as well as having to go through the SWIP permitting requirements and the various permittings. So their cost proposal at the moment is $45,000. The CT mail, the water system improvements, that's the big one. As you know, we're looking to increase the size of the pumps, the water pumps at the water pump station that is owned by the Gloversville Water Department, as well as some of the existing water lines coming in to the Tryon Technology Park to try to improve the amount of water that we can supply to future companies. That is, they're estimating $200,000. And I'd just like to note that that CT Mail is the Gloversville Water Department's contracted engineer. And in discussions with Eric Lentini from the Gloversville Water Department, he strongly encouraged that the IDA use CT Mail because they are the contracted engineer for the Gloversville Water. So just as a note for that. And likewise, environmental design partnership for the wastewater improvements. Again, upgrading the size of sewer pumps, as well as existing sewer infrastructure that is owned by Fulton County Sewer District Number 4, Hales Mills. Another component of EDP's work will be to analyze the pump station out on Route 29 that is owned by the state of New York. Several years ago, EDP was working with, I believe under contract with the county at that time, to take a look at establishing a much larger sewer district, sewer district 4. And one of the analysis was looking at that existing pump station, but that was, close to 10 years ago now. So I asked EDP to include some costs into looking at that pump station again, just to make sure nothing's changed. We know at that time what the capacity was, but we want to make sure that it's the same capacity there. The pumps are still in good condition, or if there's something that's needed there. And in the end, that'll also benefit the county in that at some point in time, the county and the sewer district will be taking over that entire state infrastructure. Okay, along the Loney Road, out 29, all the way up into the city of Gloversville as part of Fulton County Sewer District number 4. Okay, so there's 2 components there, so that's helping out the county. And we would have to do that analysis anyway, but I asked EDP, let's do it now. Okay. So again, all of those firms, need to provide final design plans, bidding specifications. They'll all provide construction administration as well, and any permitting. So that's really the next step for the IDA is to engage those firms to start their work. Yep.
Before any further discussion or action is taken, as a point of order, I have a conflict of interest with one of these contracts. Should I vacate for any discussion and vote, or can I abstain? What's the preferred modality?
Yeah, he can abstain from, you can
Just abstain?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do have a motion. For the first one is to execute an agreement subject to review and approval as to form and content by the executive director and council with Bowler Engineering to provide professional engineering services for soils construction at the Tryon Technology Park at a cost not to exceed $45,000. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Dave, is there a second?
No, that was Mike.
Mike, excuse me.
I've been told worse.
Is there a second? Okay, Dan? Okay, is there a discussion? Okay, no discussion. Anyone that would like to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Noes? Okay. Motion carries. The second one, which Mr. Benoit will abstain on, is to execute, subject to review and approval as to form and content by the executive director and council with CT Mail and Associates to provide professional engineering services for water infrastructure construction at Tryon Technology Park at a cost not to exceed $200,000. Somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Joe Simeon, is there a second? Sue? Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And one abstention. Okay, the last one is to execute an agreement, subject to review and approval as to form and content by the executive director and council with Environmental Design Partnership to provide professional engineering services for wastewater infrastructure construction at the Tryon Technology Park at a cost not to exceed $108,500.
I'll make that motion. I'll second
And Joe Gillis, discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, good. That will get us the ball rolling. Okay, moving on to our reports. County report. At the moment, we do not have a liaison, I believe. So we'll talk about that at the first ED committee meeting. We do have Administrative Officer Mr. Stead here. If he has a report at all, if not.
I don't have anything really directly to report yet for this year, other than we've experienced a lot of turnover on the Board of Supervisors in the last couple of years. So we had 8 new supervisors 2 years ago out of 20, and we have another 4 brand new supervisors. So that means 12 out of 20 with less than 2 years experience. So we'll be doing a little more education, explaining history and background, and trying to get institutional knowledge developed. But I think that'll be actually a challenge for Scott and maybe this board, because we also need those folks that understand what we're doing in economic development and the IDAs work, and I think that's always a challenge. You guys have been through this. Everybody doesn't always know what the IDA is versus the EDC or it's a CRG now, and the history of the, the different organizations. So we may be wanting to do that over the next year or so. I think this year will be fun.
So it's, one city of Johnstown supervisor, right?
Pardon?
How much, the makeup of the change, before it's 3
Two
towns?
new town supervisors and 2 new city supervisors, one from Butlersville and one from Johnstown. Okay.
I know the state budget's not passed yet, but are you hearing anything out of Albany of any potential changes?
Well, nothing specific. We know the state, based on last year's steps at the federal level, the state of New York and some other states that are in the eyes of the federal government, not necessarily spending money correctly or on the right priorities, will be impacted pretty dramatically, particularly on the social services side. Then the other thing we're dealing with right at the moment, critically, although there just was a temporary restraining order issued yesterday, is the federal government's froze 5 different states, several different programs of federal reimbursement in 5 different states that they consider to be liberal progressive states, Minnesota, California, New York, New Jersey, and I forget who the 5th is. That's expected to impact $3.3 million worth of federal reimbursement that passes through to Fulton County. So you can imagine what it is to other counties, much larger counties. Just yesterday, a judge issued a temporary restraining order on that until such time as an injunction is evaluated. And then the New York State is planning, along with the other 4 states, I believe, a lawsuit against the federal government to try to free that up. So that's kind of what we're concerned with. Here we are, not in 3 weeks into the new year, and we got that on our plate. So that continues to be, to your question, I guess, that continues to be a challenge that we haven't had in quite a few years, where the federal government is philosophically diametrically opposed to New York State directions. So we're caught in the middle on those. The county's caught in the middle, but
My guess is Illinois is number 5 would be my guess.
Me too.
so I guess I try to put a spin on that. That's the good news is we have an IDA that is very healthy and successful, so it isolates us in some ways for economic development purposes. It kind of isolates us a little bit, maybe than other communities and other areas of the state. But for economic development, not for social services.
Yeah,
Human services, right?
That's going to be a challenge for us.
Okay, CRG report. We have Jack Wilson, who is the 2026 chair.
Yeah,
CRG board.
looking forward to that. It should be a good year. Like you guys, I love this stuff. The report's in your packet. All I would really say we can is that looking forward to working with you all. CRG is, and hopefully 2026 is going to be a good year for us all, including the county. Yep. Anything, if you've got any questions on it, feel free to ask.
Okay.
Yeah. I would put it you.
Okay. You can read that report. Unfortunately, we do not have a representative from the chamber this month. Just on. Under old business, continue to be ghosted by Nexus Renewables, I guess you could say. Karen or I have received any comment or anything back from Nexus. Again, I think during past meetings, you suggested that we continue to try to reach out in various ways, and we've done that. So I'm not really sure what the next step is at this point in time. To really, and again, it was to update them to say that the town of Johnstown moratorium on solar had been lifted, and that they can proceed with reapplying for that special use permit that they were issued many years ago now, if they had an interest. So I think it's something, in the next month or so, we should have a discussion on again, just to say, do we go out and solicit other firm or other companies or, bail on the whole idea or something else. So, again, just keep that in the back of your mind, for future discussion.
They're the ones that brought the project to us, correct?
That is correct.
Mhm.
Yep, it was through a solicitation. It was quite a while ago, and I know that.
We made the land,
How far along?
Yeah, I'm trying to think,
10 years?
it's not been that long. I would say sometime
Yeah.
around 2018 or something like
yeah,
that.
it's been a while.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's been a while, Carrie. I mean,
Yeah, it's done.
yeah, and everything was on track, until such time that they're notified they had to use, there was a moratorium and that they're, since they didn't implement the project, the special use permit expired, is what happened. And then the moratorium was issued, and then they had to wait for several moratoriums, as you know, now we just don't have a contact person, so. Okay, just quickly, on our website and our project with Enron Designs, again, I had passed out the draft report during the December 9th meeting. Betsy has finalized that report, and I have her coming in to attend the February 10th meeting to present the report findings, and I assume that she will be doing the same thing for the CRG at their next meeting. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. Okay, moving on to some action items here. Our project Battle Creek Preserve. This is our 64 unit affordable senior housing project in the city of Johnstown. Just some background. Been working on this for some while in coordination with the city of Johnstown. The various parcels within the city were transferred from the city of Johnstown to the IDA. The IDA executed an option agreement with Five Corners Development on the parcels that the IDA now owns. The city of Johnstown Planning Board approved the site plan for the project. Five Corners Development was in the process at that time of completing their application to Homes and Community Renewal for incentives. And at that time, it was proposed that pilot structure of $500 per unit with a built-in escalator for 30 years would be the basis for the pilot. Five Corners Development then came back to the IDA stating that when they got into the application with Homes and Community Renewal, that they were changed the way they calculated calculated financials for people in the area, for incomes, I should say. And then Five Corners Development came back to the IDA after that, and during your November meeting, discussed a reduction per unit from $500 to $250 per unit per year for the 64 units. And as you recall, during that November meeting, we discussed that extensively. We had the city mayor here as well to discuss that. The IDA continued to support that project and that pilot basis. The city of Johnstown continues to support it again. And the findings that we lack that type of housing. It's a good thing for the city. It's a good thing for the county. So moving forward, we scheduled a public hearing for December 9th. There were no speakers. At that time, we were moving forward the project. Now, some updates from the December 9th meeting. There was a question in regards to what this project would garner in taxes, real property tax, if there were no pilot, or the project did not fall under the state's 581A exemption option. And Kara did some quick math, and she noted that based upon the total tax rate of $43.67, along with the city of Johnstown's equalization rate being 70%. The total project construction cost after the equalization rate is 13.2 million. And that the project will be subject to about $576,000 in total taxes.
Is that over the period of the pilot?
No, that would
To
be.
annually.
Yeah, it
Annual.
would be this year if you use the
Yeah,
current
okay.
tax rate.
And under our pilot, as you can see.
Say there's a lot of assumptions into that
Right.
equation. I mean, other than the actual tax rates. I mean, that assumes that the equalization rate stays the same and the property would be, the project as completed would be assessed at that 13.2 million.
Again, I think we all understand that the pilot at $16,000 per year is substantially less than, than the alternative. If there wasn't a pilot or an exemption, but I think it's understood.
It's kind of hard to compare the project with a market rate project because the cost of the project might be significantly different if they were going to be charging market rate rental values based on the way the construction and appliances and finishings and all that stuff would be. And then there was another question at the last meeting about what the rental rates would be. And Samit got back to us and said so the rental rates are based on the Fulton County HUD area median income limits, and they're capped at 30%. The gross rent is capped at 30% of income. So in year one, they anticipate that 50 of the units will be based on 60% of the area median income limits. And that would result in 1 bedrooms being rented at $756 a month and 2 bedrooms being rented at $965 a month. And then 14 of those units would be reserved for a different income classification where 1 bedrooms would be $714 a month and 2 bedrooms would be $850 a month. That would be in year one. That's what they're anticipating.
Well, there's based upon if there's obviously successful with the ACR application. If they're not going to have a project anyway, but there's a cap as to how much they can raise those rents.
Right, over the course, yeah.
What is the cap?
It's 30% of it's the capping the gross rent at 30% of the income based on the standards that the Fulton County HUD area median limit comes out every year. That'll come out and then it'll back into that number based on.
And I believe the state just approved that the annual increase can happen, I believe now twice a year.
I know.
I believe it's twice a year and I believe it's 8%. Don't quote me on that. I think new regs came out recently. So they can't jack these 10, 15, 20% in a year. There's a limit what they can do each year.
So when you say twice a year, that would be 4% each time?
Yeah.
Okay,
At most.
at most.
At most.
Assuming 8% is the target increase on an annual basis.
So as soon as they write it into their lease that way, if they enter into an annual lease agreement, then they're bound by the New York State landlord tenant rules, which any increase over 5% requires a different type of notice going to the tenant. So it really depends what those.
So it depends on what HUD says the average rent should be, and then they just go up.
Back into it, yeah.
Like Saratoga County probably has a higher number just because of their median income.
Mhm.
And then a question also came up as to what would happen at the end of the 30-year pilot term. And, Samit said that at the end of the term, they would either look to transition the project into market rate or consider going for a 581A classification directly with the municipality. Or, if 30 years from now, I guess it depends on what the laws say at that time or what other options are available to them. But if the 30 years were to end tomorrow, then that's the route that they envision they would take.
I've seen a couple of these projects come to that end of that period, and there's other state programs that help
They keep them.
keep the rent at an affordable level.
Well, after 30 years, I'm imagining transitioning to market rate would require some renovations. Yeah.
Right.
And doesn't the HCR regulations regulate, I guess you call it the profit that Five Corners will generate off of this? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and there's the developer.
So I don't know this specific project, but typically it would have a financing component, which I'm gonna call the first mortgage. And there's state programs that are either gonna be the second or third mortgage that are forgivable. So you might have $1 million second mortgage. And it's usually 20 years, so every year, if you are meeting the criteria of this program and providing affordable housing to the targeted community, 5% of that gets forgiven every year. If you are not in compliance, you owe the state that money. So it's in their best interest to be in compliance with the program so that that secondary and maybe third level debt is forgivable.
Okay.
In simple layman's terms.
Yeah. You know, this pile structure is obviously, much different than we've ever entertained here with the IDA. And typically, I'm just thinking administratively here, $16,000 for the pilot payments will be divided up between the county, the city, and the school district, right? And I believe the best approach would be for the IDA to issue those, request those payments. I don't know, it seems like it would be the most efficient way. Kara, is there other IDAs that you work with that would, you know, process a pilot payment as such, or?
Well, Warren.
So it's not based upon an assessed value, it's based.
Right. So in this case, I think it's gonna be, you're gonna base it on a pro rata basis based on the then current tax rates. That's what I was looking up with the, what I sent you. So like the school is more than 50%, I think, of that payment. But it would make sense because it would make sense for you to request the payment, then have it come here and then distribute it accordingly. Otherwise, I don't know, I guess administratively, it would be a little bit difficult because they're locking into a flat payment each year based with an escalator. And so the only other option is to get together with all the taxing jurisdictions and work together, and then they can send out the invoice separately. But it might make more sense for it to be handled here. So it, like, the current rate is $9.48 per thousand for the county, $14.48 for the city, and $19.71 for the school. And then the total is 43. So the school is a little less than half of that overall payment. So the school would be like a little less than 8,000.
Right.
I mean, the administrative piece can be kind of worked out as we get closer to that time frame, but it would seem that it might be a little easier to process them.
Yeah, I'm thinking that way, but obviously we can discuss that later, but. Okay, and with that, Kara has prepared a resolution, an approval resolution. And since she makes the big bucks, she will do that.
Scott, at one point there was a question about this project and the parcel being in the floodplain and everything. Is that resolved more or less?
I know that they're looking at that, the development company, Summit Five Corners. And they have been looking at that. I'm not 100% sure where that is now, but I know that it was brought up in
The idea will actually own property.
we own it now.
Scenario.
Yeah, we own it now. And then obviously if and when the option agreement is executed, it's a lease back, similar to any
Other project.
other project. We own the raw land was transferred from the city to the IDA. So right now on the tax records, the IDA is the owners of the property.
So being in a floodplain, does that mean that the insurance will be higher or?
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, they would be required to have flood insurance.
I know our area was just updated with new flood maps, so I actually haven't checked to see where it is there, but. Okay, so, Kara, I mean, pretty much it's our standard,
It's the standard resolution, so it talks about, it explains that, seeker's been done by the City of Johnstown Planning Board. They, issued a NAGDAC in August 5th of 2025. The total project cost is $27,886,265. They anticipate, creating 5, full-time equivalent and 15 part-time equivalent job opportunities. And then they anticipate 203 construction jobs to be created. And as we discussed previously, this is a deviation obviously from our standard. And so in section 1, we listed some of the criteria that is to be considered when the IDA is considering a deviation. And included, we mentioned the public support, that there's been no opposition and the city is strongly in favor of this project, and that it'll provide needed services that the city of Johnstown has expressed to the IDA, that this housing for seniors is something that they is really lacking and necessary for the city. And then we've also discussed previously how they were hopeful that this type of project would also encourage other projects to expand within the city corridor and have services for the people living in this project. The project itself, they're only asking the IDA for a pilot. However, they will also be sales tax exempt and mortgage reporting tax exempt, but that is by virtue of their project through HCR. They're not requesting those incentives from the IDA, but they still will get those incentives through other avenues. So that's why that standard language isn't included in this particular resolution, because it doesn't apply to this project. Then we've laid out the pilot proposal, which is $250 per unit per year with an escalator every year. The IDA's administrative fee, they'll be responsible for that payment. That's $208,997, and that's payable at the time of the closing. And then the rest just authorizes the chair to sign documents when we're ready to close. But for now, there won't be any action moving forward after the approval, except for, my guess is that they'll want to take this resolution and present it to HCR if it's requested of them.
exactly, and so will there be any actions the IDA need to take if they're not successful with their first application to HCR?
We may have to acknowledge like a future submission of the reapplication if they're changing their figures because time passes. So perhaps the project cost changes and things like that, and you might have to revisit this approval and modify it. I guess that would only really depend on whether or not the project itself has changed due to the timeframes of not being accepted on the first go. Or HCR might ask if the IDA is still in support of the project, any possible thinking.
Is there a callback provision in case they don't create these 5 jobs? That I don't see where 5 jobs are going to be created.
Yeah, you have all your projects are subject to the recapture policy. So when they do their annual reporting at that time and the jobs are not created, you can follow that policy to either have them come in and explain why, and then you can take it. There is like a due process procedure that must be followed. So you have to request that they come and present their case as to why they haven't, and then you have the ability to decide whether or not you want to recapture benefits that are given or not, which would be either modification of the pilot agreement or to terminate the pilot agreement or to do nothing.
So are they under the understanding that they'd have to give up the pilot if they don't create the 5 jobs? It just seems like 5 full-time jobs at a a brand new facility isn't, common sense tells you that there's not gonna be 5 jobs.
I mean, they're definitely on notice of our recapture policy. It's attached to our application.
Yeah.
It'll be
Just-
attached to
just
the
one thing.
agreement. They sign it independently at the time of closing, so it's not hidden any.
So wouldn't recapturing the pilot affect their HCR?
It would affect all of
So
their,
there'd be like a whole bee's nest.
yeah.
They have no incentive not to follow through.
Right.
So even though it seems incongruent to you to, how can you develop 5 positions? It doesn't matter. The financing it's gonna direct them to do it. They just have to. So you're probably gonna have 2 people doing buildings and grounds, 1 facility manager, possibly a program director, and I don't know, make up the 5th one.
Housekeeping or something.
Housekeeping, yeah.
Supervisor, possible.
Well, depending on the program too, they might even offer some sort of nursing service.
Well, we know that, we know they're aligning with that one not-for-profit.
Yeah,
Yeah. With that, with the
Yeah,
ability to
nursing
use that
service
not for
would
profit
make
if their
sense,
job
yeah.
rate.
if those jobs were created for this particular project.
I lose track of the name of them.
I know, I forgot the name of them too as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Just go back in a minute.
I'll go back in the minutes for a couple months. But yeah, they are providing wraparound services, and I know that, the city of Johnstown, school district superintendent was very favorable of that, and I went back to her to talk about the change in the pilot structure. She noted that as being, worthwhile, so. Okay, are there any other questions at this time? If not, I'd like to make the motion there for you to adopt the resolution taking certain actions in support to the proposed Hale Creek Preserve LLC project, which I have identified as 1701-25-03A.
I make that motion.
That's Joe Simeon.
Second.
Second, Dave Moore. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Noes?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, now motion is carried, 1-0. Okay, moving on to our next project that we have in the works here. We're moving over to the Crossroad Park in the city of Gloversville with our Decker Drive LLC expansion project. As you recall, this is the Wesson Group looking to purchase the 12,000 square foot building in the park. They're going to renovate and add on an additional 5,000 square feet. The City of Gloversville Planning Board has approved their project. The City of Gloversville Planning Board completed the seeker. And the Weston Group has provided an application to the IDA. One change that I've noted in the agenda a few times here. Originally, the sales tax exemption request that they provided originally was for $120,000 in sales tax exemptions, I believe. And they have recently notified Carol that they're requesting $160,000 in sales tax exemptions now. The typical pilot structure with the IDA. We've already reviewed all of this information in the past. We did hold a public hearing. There were no speakers at that time. The other notable change is that the Weston Group may be changing the total project cost, right, Carol?
Yeah.
You mentioned that. So that will obviously impact the IDA's administrative fee. But even if they're going to change that total project cost, they're still requesting those exemptions as identified in your agenda. So if you so choose, we could move forward with taking action on this resolution, which was attached to your agenda. And I do know from the past that Mr. Fitzgerald and Mr. Semyon needs to abstain from any vote on this particular resolution. Sarah, would you do the honors again?
Sure.
When you're ready?
And just the increase that they've requested is due to, they went over their construction budget, and some of the costs of materials and supplies that they need have gone up. So that's what the request is in relation to. They just thought it would be easier to request it now at this juncture than come back at a later date, since they already knew that some of these costs have gone up. And they're working on, they met with their sounds like they met with their construction people yesterday afternoon and didn't really have a firm number to come back to us with. So that's why at some point we'll be coming back and telling you what the total project cost is. Probably prior to closing, they're hoping to close the first couple of weeks of February. So they are moving forward, but it sounds like there's some just project costs changing. In any event, the resolution talks about a lot of things that are set out in your agenda. One of them is that this project will eventually result in the abandonment of their existing facility, but based on their application, they've indicated to us that the relocation is necessary because they're unable to expand at their current location, so they need to move. And that the city of Gloversville's planning board has issued a neg deck on December 2nd of 2015. The total project cost is at 4.7 right now, and they anticipate that the project will retain the existing 21 full-time jobs and will create 4 new full-time jobs once the project's completed. And they anticipate 25 full-time construction jobs to complete the project. So like we mentioned, the purchases in an amount not to exceed $2 million, which results in sales tax benefits of $160, and then an estimated mortgage in the amount of $3,150,000. That amount may go up, so we left it at estimated. It might increase slightly. They're not sure based on the total project, but obviously we'll come back to you with information that we get once we get it. And the pilot in this case is based on your standard 485B structure. So it'll be a 50% that it'll be the base value of the property plus 50% of the value of the improvements, and then 5% each year thereafter, so that at the end of the 10-year term, they're back up to 100% taxation. So the estimated benefit of the pilot is $306,660. And then the admin fee based on the 4.7 is $35,500 or $250. But like we mentioned, that may go up based on the project cost at the time of the closing. I think that's.
Yeah, and again, since the IDA issued a pilot on the original building during construction, this is only based upon the improvements and expansion to the building. The other component was, at one point, they identified that they may also want to purchase additional acreage from the IDA, but they want to do that total separately. So that's another thing that I guess they're still thinking about, but there would be nothing other than having an appraisal done and negotiating the price.
Yeah.
That would be it.
And it doesn't, that particular acquisition doesn't impact this moving forward.
Right.
So
Do you know what the current taxes that they're paying now?
well, currently it's exempt, right? It's exempt. The current assessed value is $401,000, but we have let's see if I have it in my email. The tax rates. We did this, we were gonna have it on November, right? Okay. If only these projects went by one name, that's what I have, Decker Drive. If they just, let's see.
So I guess what I'm asking, is, once they purchase it, then then they'll be paying taxes immediately on the current building and its assessment.
Yeah, once they purchase, they'll be paying, for the term of the pilot, they'll be paying on the current assessed value. And then the benefit is only on the improved structure. The improvements that are made above and beyond here it is.
Yeah, and it's in the city of Gloversville, but it's in the city, or it's in the Johnstown School District. So,
the current, if this was being taxed right now, it's $48.59, about $48.60 per thousand. So without the pilot, or just based on the assessed value, they would be paying. They would be paying $19,485. That would be for all three, based on the current assessment. And then all the projects pay on the overall total assessed value on the special district charges. So if there's water, fire, all those taxes are due. There's no incentives on those special district taxes. Yeah, there's no check right now. Yeah, about $19,485.
okay. We have a motion in your agenda to adopt a resolution taking certain actions in support to the proposed Decker Drive LLC expansion project 1701-25-02-A. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
So Gillis, is there a second?
I'll second.
Dan, discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Well, the abstentions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Abstentions?
Aye.
Aye. Like that. Go S. Okay, there you go. Motion carries. Moving right along, I guess a quick update, on our national grid, Ingram's to Rotterdam transmission, project, upgrade. As you know, the IDA was approached by a company called Canacre, that they had an interest, in leasing the 20-acre lot in the Johnstown Industrial Park. You can see it on your screen, to be used as a temporary laydown area for their project that National Grid is undertaking to reconstruct the 115 kV transmission main that cuts through the Johnstown Industrial Park. Canacre provided a proposal to the IDA to lease the 20-acre lot, which is identified as Lot A, as well as lots B and C for a 40-month term, and offered $293,232. As we have discussed in the past, the IDA and the city of Johnstown entered into an intermunicipal agreement, I believe back in 1989, whereby the city of Johnstown had acquired the majority of the parcels that you see in yellow here, which I outline as the Johnstown Industrial Park, and provided those through an intermunicipal agreement to the IDA to market. Parcel A and parcel B are identified within that intermunicipal agreement. Parcel C, however, is the parcel that the IDA acquired by itself sometime later. So that parcel C is not a part of the intermunicipal agreement. The intermunicipal agreement between the city and the IDA notes that all proceeds from any lot sales or leases, 93% of those proceeds will go directly to the city of Johnstown. The remaining 3% are retained by the IDA.
That should be 7%, right?
Okay.
7%, Scott.
Scott,
yeah, go ahead.
so the question is 93 and 3 is 96, so is it
93 and
7% that we retain?
I'm sorry.
97.
My bad. 7% the IDA retains. I forgot to correct that.
What's that? 7%.
In order for the IDA to move forward, we're required to have our own appraisal done, which we did at a cost of $3,500 through CBRE. And at that time, the city of Johnstown agreed to provide 50% of that in reimbursement to the IDA moving forward. We did receive the market rent study by CBRE for the 29.8 acres attached in your packet should be the market rent study. If not, I do have a comparison here that I'll also show you. Let me bring that up here, please. So on the screen, I tried to do a preliminary comparison in regards to the can acre proposal, and I broke it out to a per acre rent cost. And then as you can see in the orange, and then did the same thing for the CBRE market rent. Okay, just some footnotes here. That the can acre proposal was that they were going to pay any taxes on improvements made to the property. Again, in order to do that though, Carol, we would have to enter into a pilot agreement.
Mhm.
Okay, so there is that. The CBRE proposal suggested that an increase escalator be added based upon the CPI of around 3%. So I did my best to try to break this out so that the city and you could see the comparison. Now I will note that I did not include that 3% in here. So it's basically just using raw numbers, but it gives you an idea. So based upon the acreage for the can acre proposal, the net to the city for per month would be $5,353.46, and for a year would be $64,241. And then for the 40-month term, which was what the term was proposed to be, the city would net around $214,000. Okay, the IDA at the 7%, obviously much less. The net to the IDA per month is around $2,000, $23,000 per year. And then for the 40 months, it's around $80,000. Okay.
And as you pointed out to us yesterday, lot C is 100% to
That's correct.
IDA.
Yep, because you can see the lot C here is zero to the city there. So again, moving on to the CBRE. CBRE per month total would be $8,691.46. Obviously, for the city, the net would be around $6,300 a month or $76,000 a year. For the 40 months, just around $254,000. And then to the IDA, we'd be looking at around $94,000 for the 40-month term. A couple of notes. That was based upon a 40-month term commencing on November 1st of this year, and expiring on February 28th of 2030. Okay. I received an email from Can Acre this morning that said that they would like to change that term to have it start on July 1st of 2026 because the contractor would like to start utilizing the site. So they extended the term. The other issue that Mayor Pratt and I have seen is that Can Acre would like to engage the property ASAP, but they do not want to start paying until the term. So even though they would like to execute the option or the lease, I guess it'd be at least say tomorrow, they don't want to start paying us until July whatever date, November 1st to 26th. So there's a bunch of months there that we can't sell the property, but they want to be able to lock that property in. So that's an issue that the mayor has. She obviously believes the date that the lease agreement were to be signed is the date that the cost, the payments should be based upon.
And when they can access.
Yeah, they would not be able to sell it from underneath them, obviously. So that's one change that the mayor and myself would obviously like to see moving forward. And then again, adding that 3% escalator. And so these numbers obviously would increase. I did not include, adding or changing the term from the 40 months to whatever it would be now, but clearly there is an increase in the net to both the city and to the IDA.
Scott, have these numbers been shared with Ken Acre up to this point?
You don't want to use it earlier, is that a deal breaker for him? Or is, geez, you're not gonna let us, maybe we'll find a 50 acres somewhere else.
Oh, they've identified that this is a perfect site for what they need based on access on the 30, at the 30A, close to the thruway. And in relation to this particular laydown area is going to service a certain section of this linear path. So, and it's in an industrial park, not in a residential area. So they're pretty locked into this site, Joe. Again, we have not gone back to Can Acre to discuss, other than to the mayor has informed them that the original proposal wasn't satisfactory, and that the IDA and the city will be working on revised. So
Basically, they put forward their structure in terms of length.
Yep.
Monthly payment and demand for early access and utilization, with the caveat that they not be financially obligated to make payment on that early access until the term starts in July.
that's correct.
That's a pretty bold ask, if you ask me. I'll be interested to see how basically we would have to go back to them with our numbers, basically a counter offer at this point, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the only option we have at the moment. Yeah.
You're talking about lease payments starting July or November? I just feel like what you said earlier, Scott.
So, originally the term was to start on November 1, through February 28th of 2030. Now the term would start on, July 1st of this year. So
Payments would start.
they would basically say the payments would start on July 1. Whereby they want to,
They would start payments.
They want to take possession now.
today. So they don't want to pay from January to
5 months free rent.
Yeah.
So
Maybe they can just rent parcel C for a little while.
So again, this is just information, today. Obviously, we're going to be working with, the city of Johnstown. I believe you've already had preliminary discussions with Mr. Albanese on this. So we'll continue down that path. But I guess, from your standpoint, and obviously, is this something you want to continue to entertain? It is providing obviously some dollars to the IDA. Those are operational dollars for a couple of years right there, for sure. We haven't had a lot of interest in lot 20, the larger lot. The two smaller lots, obviously, we've had zero interest. Again, I think I've informed you this before. The idea would be that the company that's developing or using that site would put in an access They wouldn't be paving, but they'd be putting in an access area, stripping topsoil, leaving topsoil, creating a pad site, there'd be temporary power brought in, basically, and that's really it.
What are the requirements for restoration of that site when they're done?
So I believe, their proposal, that they provided was that they would restore it to the original condition. But at a meeting with the city of Johnstown, I suggested maybe the language should read that, it would be up to the IDA and the city to determine whether or not they want that restoration done. Because if they had to make some improvements that improve the site, why don't we just have them leave it that way?
So part of it's a big steep bank, right? So they
Yeah.
grade that down, you
Yeah.
don't want to
So,
do pay.
so I think that was one of the items that was noted to change into the, give us the option. Right, so. Again, that's kind of where we are with that. So, we moving forward, obviously bringing this,
What did the mayor say about the price per acre?
the mayor. And I think she was more comfortable with it. I mean,
The CBRE,
yeah, 100%, yeah, 100%. And again, based upon the proposal that Canmaker provided, they would be providing these dollars up front. So it wouldn't be a monthly thing, it basically, whatever the agreement is, they would write a check to, the city for X, and then we write a check to the IDA for X. So we wouldn't be, they'd be paying it ahead, I guess. Oh, so the whole shoot.
So what is, it just makes the whole 5 months of free rent seem even more odd.
Right. Write the check.
Just write the damn check. Because my thought was take those 5 months, build it into the monthly rate. And, up it a little bit to cover that cost over the length of the lease. And if you're gonna cut a check, just cut the damn check. What's the big deal?
Yep, I'll share that with you. Back. We'll agree. That's definitely. They also make money off of their upfront rent.
Absolutely. You get it 4%.
right,
I mean, Michael was on how compounding interest works.
Right behind you.
Okay.
Or there's with you.
Yeah, let's start the tab. And I'm looking at page 17 already.
So, our Vireo Health, project and our hiring report, status. Again, back in January, you executed an agreement. An agent and equipment lease agreement concerning job creation. That Vireo, was also required to provide you, job creation reports. On and for June 30th of 25, December 31 of 25, and then June 30th of 26. Okay, we reviewed their report, their June 30th report. Whereby they indicated that they had 83 full-time equivalents as employees hired. During your July meeting, you accepted that report. You did not receive a report as of the December 31, 2025 time. Carol and I contacted Vireo, basically informing them that they need to have that report to the IDA ASAP, in particular and prior to this meeting. This morning, we did receive that report. And you will see, I provided you the exact report that they provided. My calculations show that they have created 128 positions that have been created and have been filled. And based upon that, if you accept this, they're in compliance with the report as of December 31, as well as the June 30th. Because as of June 30th, you required them to have documented 120 full-time equivalent employees.
I'm reading this.
People work 128 now for Vireo.
I don't know where they hide them.
Maybe they'll bust them in, I don't know.
If I'm reading this correctly, basically each of these is an employee.
That's correct.
We're seeing their job description or title.
Yep.
Where the name is provided, that's the manager's name. That is not,
Yeah.
they haven't hired this person 26 times. Okay,
We asked them for the reporting. It was to give us the title, the date they're hired, obviously, as well as the salary range. We did not want to know their social security numbers and everything like that. So, this is the information that you requested, at that time.
Do they have a couple shifts? There?
Yeah, they have
Three?
Yeah, three, well, it's 24/7 as far as, some employees are in there.
They have multiple shifts because they're turning on and off the grow rooms and harvesting, places, then.
Yeah. Obviously, they have folks that deliver and ship and. Observation, I drove through there a couple times in the past month and the parking lot seems to be pretty full midday. So. Is there anything else, any other information that you'd like for us to go back and ask? Ask now, otherwise,
So they provided this not 128.
Yep.
And the next deadline was technically June 30. Do they still need to touch base with us?
I would
By
say, yes,
June
we
30
still
to
want them to touch
confirm that
base
they
with-
have these
Yeah.
numbers?
that they didn't lay off 40
Yeah.
people or something, yeah.
So we don't just be like, oh, this is great.
No,
No.
no.
no, I mean, they were, what did they have, 83 for their June report?
Mhm.
So, I mean, obviously they've increased that, so, yeah, again, we will definitely be asking for an update, for the June 30th.
Mhm.
Report, but so far it appears as though they're in compliance.
So quick, that 78 of the employees have been there starting in 2025. So those numbers were from their higher dates.
Oh.
Yeah, and there was a couple that like just squeaked in at the beginning of the year too.
Yeah, that's, I gave them those, the two of those in.
I don't really have an issue that they might be squeaking a couple in a little late, so long as they're meeting the overall goal. You know,
I guess my question would be, this is their report. Is there any other validation? I know what we asked for, but is there any check and balance, as you said, to say, this is from ADP, from the payroll providers, as opposed to a spreadsheet that they create to say that they actually have that number of people. So is there any way for us to validate aside from them to see who?
I mean, the plant manager is the one that we've been communicating with, correct? And she's the one that provided us.
And are you doing a trust but verify? Listen, this is a nice report.
Yeah.
It's great and we like to see these things, but again. Employees, that's going state number that they have, that they can.
Well, what is the form that you normally submit when you're looking for job counts for the other projects?
It's pretty simple form. Yeah.
Like they just
They
insert
have
it on there, right? Yeah.
That's it.
And they just verify that that's.
That's it. We just say that that's what it's checking our box that we are making sure that they're doing what they said they were gonna do. Now, if something happens at the state level and says, well, you haven't, we can only say, this is the information that they provided. We are checking, we're doing our due diligence, checking that they're in compliance with our application.
I mean, I would just be a little cautious unless we have some reason to believe that we don't believe that this is accurate, that we aren't treating them any differently than.
And I guess that's probably
And
my
we
question,
are the-
not so much them, but in general, right? How are we validating each job they're actually having?
Requesting information till they, till they can prove to us
Yeah.
we are satisfied, but under the circumstances, I guess, I don't know if there's some reason that, maybe we're not comfortable with this report, or we've asked them for more things than we asked from the other company because they entered into this amended agreement with us because they were really out of compliance with us to begin with. So when we said, all right, listen, you have to agree to these terms or we're gonna recapture, and it's a tremendous amount of money in sales tax that because they had been going back and forth, they were approved for a pilot agreement, but they couldn't get their investor to get on board with the structure of an IDA. They just couldn't accept it. So they just agreed to just do the sales tax only, but then we were like, okay, well, we need you to enter into this agreement with us. Then they changed their job count significantly. And we were like, well, what is the reason for the job count? It had everything to do with them selling their license or not. So when we asked them to put together all this information, it's more onerous than what we do require from the other companies. So I guess I could go back and look at the agreement and see but it really is kind of in compliance with what we requested in that agent amendment. That they had to identify the job position, the hire date, the salary range.
Yeah.
I think the June report, they identified them with some sort of like employee number, I want to say. But I mean, we could go back and have them sign some sort of
Attestation?
yeah, that is accurate, and these are all full-time. We did ask them to confirm that they're all full-time, and she didn't get back to us yet. So we can ask her to verify that she's saying that this is accurate. She's
Yeah.
the manager in charge. And
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, well, we will do that and report back at the next meeting. All right, moving along, under our new business. Sue is chair, appointed members to the IDA's committees. You'll see those in your agenda. No actions need to be taken on that at the moment. However, we do have some staff appointment actions. Under the IDA bylaws, you're required to annually appoint the executive director, the chief financial officer, and the auditor. On October 14th, the governance committee met and is recommending the following: appointment of the executive director, to appoint myself to serve as the IDA's executive director for 2026 at a salary of $27,000. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'd like to make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mike Fitzgerald, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, your discussion.
Is it possible to cluster some of these items into a single vote if there's no? Have we ever done anything like that?
you can do it like that if you want.
Okay.
It's something we do at the school board, yeah, just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's along the lines of a consent agenda. But we're sort of doing it on the fly, so.
Sure.
Consider it cluster.
Legal services could be it.
So separate. Okay.
So basically what I would be proposing is that we take on item under the staff appointments. Item 3, 4, and then we just move into legal services, depositories, financial report. At the very least as an initial cluster,
Okay.
assuming there's no objection to that. I know Joe wants his day in court with Kara, so maybe we want to leave that out.
Kind of one cluster 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then C, D would be separate.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
They showed up.
C,
Well,
D,
I'm less about that, but whatever. I'm just looking for ways to, because we have
We've got some.
25-page agenda to get through. We're only on page 16.
Yeah.
So if there's no objection to that.
My only, and this is, my question is what are the CFO's responsibilities? Are they just cutting checks or is it making the notes for the meetings? What
So
is
the
her?
CFO provides the budget report that I present.
Uh-huh.
They manage the T-bill report. They obviously communicate with reinvesting the T-bills. They provide basically a financial report that is, they compile the financial report that is sent to the Weston Company as was our auditors, which you'll see in your agenda that they've done that already. You know, I will basically just, you know, if there's something that in our budget we purchase, obviously they take care of all that. It's not like I'm going out there and seeking proposals or anything. They handle all that. So pretty much anything financially like that. Cut checks, go to the bank, make deposits, manage everything in Quicken. So, yep. Okay, well, then I guess I will obviously amend the motion to appoint the ID's executive director at that salary, the CFO at said salary, and then the auditor. I mean, I can change that motion, obviously. That's what
I'm looking for.
Okay, it's fine. Can do that. So
So I'll make the motion.
yeah, you're gonna make the motion, Dave, okay?
The second, the motion to accept all three of those.
Okay, Joe Simeon, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, the legal services. Authorize the chairman to execute an agreement with Fitzgerald Morris Baker Perth to provide legal services at a cost of $9,000. Somebody like to make that motion?
I would like to make that.
Joe, Simeon,
They did a wonderful job.
Sue, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Just no, I have no relation there.
There's a fourth cousin.
Okay, positive value funds to designate MBT citizens, community bank and key bank is eligible depositors. Somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Joe Gillis, second by Joe.
Myself.
Any further discussion?
Or
Do I have to excuse myself?
you don't have to excuse yourself, but I would abstain.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Noes, abstentions? Okay. As I noted, the financial report for 2025 has been provided to the Weston Company. Attached to your agenda, you will see the analysis of the 2025 ID Board Performance Questionnaire. I'm going to go through it all. Obviously, there was one item where someone had a somewhat disagree based upon the item of board decisions arrived at through independent judgment and deliberation through political influence, pressure, or self-interest. Open for discussion. Is there anything that we can do to change procedures moving forward? For discussion.
I think overall we're satisfied, but I think sometimes last minute asks or situations, it's just tough, you know. And no disrespect to the county, but you know, we had a big ask and it happened very, very quickly, but I understand why the reason was that they needed to see if they could award contracts, but we had very short notice on that. And I said the same thing when Jim Raz had last minute things for us. So
Okay.
my only consideration, just a little more time for especially bigger things. That was a big ask.
Okay. Everything else look good? Somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make it.
Okay,
I'll second.
Dave, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes, motion carried. Okay, the 2025 performance and measurement report. Again, that's attached to your agenda. Pretty much the same as past reports in previous years. Although I did note that we did revise our mission statement on November 18th. Nothing else has changed other than item 8, the 2025 performance measures. I did add identify additional housing sites for housing development, as well as assisting the county in implementing its tourism development. So there are a few other things that we've added to this. Again, you're required to review and acknowledge that you read and understood the mission statements. You understand who has the powers of appointment management of the IDA, which is yourselves. That obviously you know the role of the board and management in the implementation of the mission statement. Again, pretty much the same as every year. So, but we do need a motion to authorize the chair to sign, and that for this to be added to the ID's website and the report.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second by Mike. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the 2025 assessment of effectiveness of the ID's internal financial bill system. This is our policy 11. It is attached for your review. It is the same as in the past years. I looked at it, did not see that there were any recommended changes. We did propose the certification statement as identified within your agenda. And looking for a motion to adopt the certification statement.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, a couple of the items, and I'll combine these if you'd like.
Please.
We have 2 memberships, one to the CRG for $1,000, which is what we did in 2025, and then a $400 membership to the chamber. Somebody like to make the motion to what says?
I'll second.
The second was from Joe Gillis.
Semyon.
Second. Favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Last item that we really need to, I guess, go over here is our 2025 goals, our 2026 goals. So we have identified pretty substantial goals in 2025. Back in June, we reviewed all these goals. I think at that time, the consensus was that we were on track to either have met them or we're on track to meet them. Again, I did want to go through and see if you felt as though that goal was actually met. But we don't have to do that if you don't like, if you don't choose to. There's nothing else we do at that. There was some 2026 goals. That
we table it to February.
I think so. I still have time to put this into the annual report, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. You definitely have to do it by next meeting though.
Oh,
Okay. So I guess take this home with you and fill it out. As you so choose. I will note that during that June 10th meeting, one of the goals and that I'm just as a placeholder here was to start working more with the school district superintendents, maybe have a individual meeting with each of them and the school boards, or have a joint one to explain the pilot process and to become more engaged with the school districts. I think this year we've done that already as far as becoming more engaged. As I met with obviously the Johnstown superintendent, the 2 of our projects, as well as the Rutherford School District superintendent for one of them. So we are directly engaging with them, but I think an overall meeting would be good. So that could be one of our goals.
I think other goals are related to the grants.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. All right. We have 2025 ST 340 form. The only, pilot we have out there right now is with Varial Health. Or for sales tax exemptions, I should say. I requested, them to provide a copy of that form that they would have, provided to a New York State, tax department. However, I have not heard back from them, with a copy of that form. We can, I guess, talk quickly about the Crossroads Park marketing. As you know, Ms. Cristofaro is now a City of Johnstown supervisor. During your December 8th meeting, you passed a motion to release Howling and Gateway Relay Solutions as the IDA's marketing firm for the Crossroads Park property. Kara and the County Attorney Brock have been working back and forth on this to somewhat. But there was one firm that Colin identified that she has been working with, and that's the Urban Redevelopment Group. And if you recall, as part of the agreement with Gateway Relay Solutions, there was a clause in there that says 60 days after the expiration of the listing period, if the owner accepts the purchase offer on a property, and the person whom the property has been shown during the listing period, the owner will pay the listing broker compensation. So I think that's still being worked out a little bit, but that would be the plan.
So basically we have 60 days. If something gets sold after 60 days, we don't have to pay her.
That's correct. It's pretty unlikely that that will happen, obviously. Again, at the last meeting, you also said let's not look to relist until such time that that 60 days expires. We haven't really discussed relisting. Okay. We'll combine the fire tax bills payment.
Welcome to table now. Second.
You get me.
That's why.
This is why we need a consent agenda for such meetings.
Maybe. Okay, I'm in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I do the training. Last month, and the report on website transparency that they conducted on various ideas. There were 54 requirements, and I went through our website based on the requirements, and you will see the colored line items and our items that we are not in compliance with at the moment. I have discussed these with Emory Designs, and we are working on becoming compliant with these at the moment. And that is all I have. There is no executive session, so someone have to make a motion before the meeting.
I'll second it.
Favor say aye. Aye.
Quick question, when will we have our dates when we should attend meetings for CLG?
That's how we did. I know that.
Those selected to be.
Yep. Right now, I will send that over. All right, bye. It's not terrible.
We'll move on to.
I can give you one back.
Okay.
I can give you one back.
But I live downtown, so I can watch that.